And we're live. Okay.
Yay.
Woo!
Okay, so I will leave the one we were in.
Yeah.
I don't know how to do that, so I'm just gonna X out of it. And then you're going to, do you have to send me the link and invite me again?
I already did.
You already did, and here it is. Something was just poisoned in that last one. Okay, let me just join that.
Okay. Okay, there we go.
Am I here? Let's see.
I think we did it. All right, so now we're gonna also get this going. Okay, I think we are good to go. Yep. Okay.
Can I ask a silly question? What do I do here? Maybe, okay.
Okay. Just tweeting it out here.
Nice.
And then also sharing it on Facebook.
I must have opened the wrong one.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe this isn't the Hangout invite yet.
Well, you know, worst case scenario, you just
you
join in with me.
Live.
Boom. Okay. So now that we've got.
And if the feedback is a problem, then I'll totally do that.
Reading it out here. There we go. Okay. Okay. Nice.
So why are we behind?
Because it's the lag in the broadcast. It's meant to catch anything.
Yeah.
Like that.
Shut it down.
Yeah, exactly. In case something happens.
Give the nuclear codes.
Okay. So I guess we could start by just like talking about sort of what our days are like, first and foremost. So my name is Vivian Finch, and I'm a GTF, Graduate Teaching Fellow here at the Center for Teaching for the 2014-2015 academic year.
And my name is Ben Galina, and I'm also a GTF this year, 2014-2015. It's kind of hard to believe. And we are hoping that this Hangout will give you an opportunity to see what our days are like here at the CFT and encourage you, if this seems like something you'd be interested in, to apply for the position.
So one of the things that, at least that I've heard people ask before about what it's like to work at the CFT is the difference between being a graduate teaching fellow and a teaching affiliate. And they're two very different positions. So the teaching affiliate position is something that happens primarily in the month of August. It is envisioned as a position that helps with the preparation and then implementation of teaching assistant orientation, which helps graduate students who are about to start teaching at Vanderbilt get acclimated to what that actually means and what that will entail. And so teaching affiliates help in the planning. They lead their own breakout sessions according to discipline groups. And then after TAO, teaching assistant orientation, happens, which is generally mid to late August, depending on Vanderbilt's academic calendar, then teaching affiliates create projects. And this can range from,
what are those projects? What do they look like?
So I've seen projects where a teaching affiliate will actually interview Vanderbilt undergrads and ask them what they actually want out of teaching affiliates. So kind of understanding what student expectations are for teaching affiliates. I've seen just a lunch workshop series that teaching affiliates create as a way to cultivate some of those relationships that formed during teaching assistant orientation with those breakout sessions.
Right.
And so really we're talking about a concentrated amount of work that happens in August, beginning of August, leading up through teaching assistant orientation, and then that project that generally happens in the fall sometime.
And why would I want to be a teaching affiliate? Do I do it because I love teaching, because I think that I'm giving back? Is it because I want to meet new graduate students and I want to create a network?
I think it could be all of the above, really. But I mean, each
What's
person,
the compensation?
Right. So it's $1,000. Yeah. Which can go a long way, especially in the summer months as a grad student.
Yeah.
And it also gives you the opportunity to connect with other graduate students on campus from other disciplines. And I think that in and of itself is really valuable. I think sometimes it's tough to connect with students in other departments, especially if those departments are kind of really far away, either as far as the discipline's concerned or physically on campus, just really far away.
Now, I know you're in a privileged position because you were a Vanderbilt undergrad, but let me just ask you, how many buildings do you think you know at Vanderbilt?
Wow. I'm sure there are buildings that I haven't been in, especially in the medical center, but I think I've been in every building on campus
you
at some
might be
point.
At the top of the graduate students as far as that's concerned. I have to say that having been here now for 4 years, I've probably been to between 4 and 5 buildings. I just don't get out of my realm, I go from Furman Hall, which is where the Spanish department is, to Buttrick, which is where the graduate student offices are, to the Center for Teaching. And that's sort of my life.
Yeah,
Which actually brings me to the fact that one of the things I like about the graduate teaching fellow job is that I've had the opportunity, I guess, now to travel to a few more buildings than I had before, because doing observations in other people's classes sometimes takes me outside of my normal little realm. So you get to observe classes that are absolutely outside of your discipline, to see things that you haven't seen since you were an undergraduate or maybe never. I sat in on a science class that one of our assistant directors, Cynthia Brame, taught. I can't tell you the last time I sat in a science class. It felt like, I think being in a Spanish class must feel like if you don't speak Spanish, but it's a cool opportunity.
Well, actually, since we're talking about the graduate teaching fellows, why don't we go ahead and jump into what that job description looks like?
So we did the teaching affiliates, right? Concentrated work at the beginning of August, a project later, $1,000.
And it's also a really good way to kind of see what the Center for Teaching has to offer in terms of its many programs for graduate student development.
Right.
And then also just sort of making those connections within the capacity of thinking about your own teaching, and how you could potentially develop that. So that is the teaching affiliates position. Then graduate teaching fellows. There are a few types. So I'm a graduate teaching fellow. That's all I get. Ben, however, you are.
I'm a Mellon graduate teaching fellow, which means that my work centers around the humanities specifically. And this is a position that's open only to PhD students or candidates in the humanities disciplines. But I think humanities here broadly defined.
So tell me a little bit about what the Mellon GTF position looks like.
So it definitely brings a different but similar or parallel set of duties and responsibilities at the CFT. Part of every GTF's job involves teaching in the certificate in college teaching program. We have a seminar and a practicum, and that's your main teaching opportunity as a GTF. Now, I also teach what looks like a section of that called the Mellon Certificate in Humanities Education, which is a program only, once again, for humanities students or students in the humanities disciplines to get a chance to think about what are pedagogies that are specific to humanities departments.
So we're talking about a program that is specifically for graduate students.
Yes,
graduate students who are interested in the humanities, who are interested in developing a signature pedagogy.
Exactly. And would you say, now Vivian too is a humanist.
Mm-hmm.
Vivian comes from the German department. I come from the Spanish department. We should have said that. So we're actually Furman neighbors.
Yeah. The only building on campus, by the way, that's stone and brick.
Yes.
Just want to throw that out there.
Yes. And isn't there a cool trivia point about that?
Actually, yes. The lady. So I used to give campus tours as an undergrad, so I know these things. So the lady who donated the funds to build Furman was the wife of a quarry owner. And so the stone that was used to build Furman is actually locally sourced.
Oh,
and so that
is a different trivia piece than I had heard, but I like that one way more than the one that I had heard. Do you want to know the one I heard?
This is how urban legends start, by the way.
Absolutely it, yes. So I heard that building looks so much like the buildings at Duke, you know?
Yes,
so
yes.
I've heard that actually there was a mix-up, right?
That the architectural plans got changed because there is a building on Duke's campus that is a brick building, and Duke is primarily stone-based architecture.
So we're coming for you, Duke.
That is actually the story you tell before you tell the real story.
Okay, okay. So I heard the urban legend.
You heard the urban legend.
Okay.
And now you know the real story.
Yes.
And you can start to debunk urban legends.
I need to spend another lifetime at Vanderbilt to learn all of its secrets. Yeah. It's a little bit like Hogwarts.
But okay, so but
back
circling
to the Mellon
back,
thing. So, we were talking about
we're both
signature pedagogies. We're both humanists, and would you not say that coming from a language department particularly, but the humanities in general, graduate students do have a lot of opportunities for teaching?
Yes,
right?
yes.
Definitely relative to students in perhaps more hard sciences or natural sciences departments. So we see a lot of those natural sciences students in our regular certificate in college teaching program. They're really looking to break out of their shells and
because
get into teaching.
it's often one of their only opportunities for professional development as far as their teaching is concerned.
Exactly. And what are they going to do? Many of them are going to go on to be great teachers at universities and colleges across the country. So that program makes perfect sense for them. For humanities students, oftentimes that to them seems, and it's not, but seems as if it would not be useful, right? They're like, I'm already teaching. For many of them, they're the instructor of record. They're the only person in the classroom leading the class. Well, the Mellon program focuses on those sorts of students who think that they have a lot of opportunities to teach, or who do have a lot of opportunities to teach, into really refining what it is that they're doing in the classroom, to putting a sort of rationale to the pedagogical choices that they're already making. So we see a lot of issues around exactly what the humanities do today, right?
Okay, yeah. So can you tell me a little bit more about that? Sort of how that plays out in the Mellon seminar?
So I can only speak from personal experience because this is the first year that we've done this, so there are no records.
That's a good point, by the way. This Mellon certificate just started this year.
So I had the cool opportunity to actually help Nancy Chick, another of our assistant directors, write the syllabus, develop the assessments, all of that. So I could really speak transparently about why we were doing what we're doing. And the things that we're doing include going over inclusivity in the classroom, which maybe this would be a good moment to mention our theme for the year.
Yeah. So so real fast, the Center for Teaching's theme this year is teaching difference and power, and looking at situations, especially in the classroom, in which there may be a disparity or a disconnect in some way across issues of difference. So this could be anything from racial differences, religious differences. It could be gender differences. We just published one of our other GTFs colleagues, Danny Picard, just wrote up a fantastic teaching guide on
ability.
Yeah, on ability. So thinking about students with different types of differences that we maybe don't ordinarily think about in our classrooms. Exactly. So thinking just about how to approach the classroom in a more inclusive manner. Exactly. And so as a result of that theme, we've been organizing different ongoing events, but also thinking about ways to incorporate that into our existing programs.
Exactly. So that is one of the focuses of the Mellon program. We're particularly interested in teaching these humanities students what teaching might be like at a university that's not like Vanderbilt, right? Many of us aren't going to end up at R1 universities right out of the gate. So we're talking about what is it like to teach in a small liberal arts college? What is it like to teach in a commuter school? What is it like to work at a community college? What is it like to work in a historically Black college or university? And what are those issues that come to the classroom inherent in that type of institution that you might not have confronted with at Vanderbilt? So we deal with that. We also talk about technology in the humanities and exactly what are the digital humanities? What can we do in the classroom digitally? How much of digital pedagogy is proper to the humanities and how much belongs to other disciplines? It's not exactly useful for our content. We'll talk about that. And we've also spent a long time in our practicum, which is the second half of the Mellon program, dealing with course design, and particularly students will leave with a syllabus that they can take onto the job market.
That's fantastic.
So you're going to leave, and we, with this syllabus in hand, along with some lesson plans for that syllabus. So it's not just the course, but you could go into an interview and say, this is this course that I've created. This is how I'm going to teach it exactly. And if you want to go through the first day with me, I have an entire plan. Let me just do that for you.
That's fantastic. I love that.
Many times these small liberal arts colleges now are having you do teaching demonstrations in tandem with or in lieu of job talks. So graduate students at places like Vanderbilt who are so used to talking about their research are going to have to get up in front of people and say, this is how I teach, or just teach, right?
And that's actually a component that also is included in the certificate for college teaching program. So it's essentially the Mellon certificate is the humanities specific version of the certificate in college teaching program. And one of the things that you do as part of the program is you craft your teaching statement. And then in the seminar, you craft your teaching statement, and then you also have a teaching demo. And you get feedback on that teaching demo. And I think that speaks to this growing trend of having some sort of teaching demo component when you go onto the job market. And it's something that can be anxiety inducing if you're not mentally prepared for that. So one of the really great benefits of this program here at the Center for Teaching is that you get that ability to kind of confront that anxiety, step into it, and develop a plan for what a teaching demo could look like and get feedback on that, which is really valuable. And then in the practicum, you actually get a teaching opportunity, and one of the graduate teaching fellows will come and observe you in that teaching opportunity and give you even more very valuable feedback. So I think all of those things, not only prepare you for possible classroom environments in which you could find yourself, but then also just prepare you for going on the job market.
Yeah, it's scary to think about, isn't it?
Oh my gosh.
So one of the things that Vivian has brought up is this teaching observation, right? So we do observe all of the students in the practicum section of the CICT do a teaching opportunity, whatever that might look like for them. And we've even gotten to do some this year at institutions that weren't Vanderbilt, right? Some of our graduate students adjunct or guest lecture at institutions in Nashville that aren't Vanderbilt. So that's been really interesting for me. But that's just one type of consult that we do. And teaching is just one small part of our job. So we do lots of other consultations that I find to be my favorite part of the job. So outside of teaching, which I'm always going to love, the consults give me this opportunity to one-on-one meet with graduate students from across the university and talk to them about whatever they're thinking about in relationship to their teaching. And that might look like, hey, I have a videotape that I did of my lecture for my advisor. He was away for the weekend. I lectured and I have a video here. Let's talk about it. It's, hey, can you come into my class and watch me teach? It's, hey, can you talk to my students and do a small group analysis, which is something that we can talk about later if you're interested.
Yeah, we'll circle back to that.
Yeah, and see what's going on in my classroom sort of under the hood. What other kinds of consults do we do? Hey, I have this teaching statement here. Could you read it? I'm about to send it out with my job market materials, and I'd love to know what it sounds like.
Or I'm interested in using this particular tool in my classroom. How could I best do that? And we can help there. We also can do consults on course design, syllabus design.
I love syllabus consults.
I recently did a consult for a teaching portfolio.
Just the whole thing.
Yeah,
okay.
So what that looks like, and how you can build that, and the things that you need to put into it.
Yeah. At the beginning of this semester, I got to do a con eval, which was a consult about student evaluations from the semester prior. It was really interesting. So not like a small group analysis, catching the moment in time, but getting the snapshot of what happened at the end of the class. What were students feeling? And it led me to a very interesting article called about peak end theory. Do you know about peak end theory? So psychologists posited, and psychologists actually out of Peabody, which is right across the street from the Center for Teaching. We're located in a really cool spot, right in between main campus and Peabody. So you really have an access to literally everything and really good eating.
No joke.
Really good eating. You're right by some really good restaurants.
Yeah, if you work here, you're going to have so many lunch options, by the way, if you ever forget to bring lunch with you.
Or, forget to bring lunch with you because you want to buy lunch. Where was I going with that? Oh, peak end theory. So psychologists say that to measure major events in our lives, like vacations or classes that are very much bound by a discrete beginning and end point, that our sort of reflection on that experience is a composite of the peak moment, the moment that was most emotionally memorable, and the end. How did the end go? What was happening on the last day or in the last moment? And your view later on, your recollection of that experience will be a combination of the peak and the end.
Whoa.
So we talked about that in relation to the con evals, which was in that consultation about student evals, which was so interesting. So we talked about, what do you think students thought was the peak moment of the course, and what was the last week like? How was their mood? What was going on? What were you doing?
Interesting.
And do you see that reflected in what's going on? And this person particularly said, yes, we had a really good experience in the middle with a very fun and dynamic activity that I did using technology. And then at the end, we sort of had to cycle through a lot of review because they weren't feeling confident about the test materials. So evaluation students' comments sort of reflected the fact, they said, this was a lot of fun at times, but it seemed like we really got bogged down with details, which to me is a very clear point, or a very clear indicator of the fact that they were bogged down by details at the end. They had this fun middle, and they had averaged them out to say, this is pretty good.
Yeah. Wow. That's a really
So you get to learn a lot of really tangential information that you never know when would be useful for Google Hangout.
And that's a good point in terms of part one of many things that you will learn here, if you choose to work at the Center for Teaching, is that you get a crash course in everything that's being done in higher ed classrooms. So if you didn't know kind of what the larger conversations look like around things, for example, lecturing, you will find out.
Now, isn't it great? Vivian is absolutely right, and it's something that I didn't feel super confident about before I came to the Center for Teaching. I thought, oh my gosh, they're throwing out all of these
I don't know enough.
It's like I can do that in Spanish because I've been doing it for 4 or 5 years now, but I don't do it in teaching. No one does it in teaching. But our assistant directors not only bandy about the names, but they're actually writing and producing information, scholarship on teaching and learning, which to me is really, really exciting. Well, 2 of our assistant directors, Cynthia Brame, again, and Nancy Chick, recently published an article together. And so we got to go through the process of hearing how they had written it, what they had done. The opportunities for collaboration, another point that we should bring up, are just abound here. Tell me about, Vivian gets to work closely actually with several of our assistant directors in her different capacities as a graduate teaching fellow, but particularly Vivian works with our scholarship in teaching and learning program, which we call SOTL, which people call SOTL, right? Not just us,
SOTL.
People call SOTL.
Although in Canada, they say SOTL. So there you go.
Oh, I hate that. I hate that. So Vivian gets to work through SOTL with Assistant Director Nancy Chick. So I imagine you get to see Nancy sort of on the weekly, right?
Yeah.
Tell me what that's like, and tell me what that collaboration looks like.
Weekly planning dates. So the Scholarship of Teaching and Learning program was conceived as a breakout from the Certificate in College Teaching program. So, you think about it, you go through the program, the Certificate in College Teaching program, and you acquire all of these tools and modes for thinking about student learning and your own teaching as a result of that. and then what can you do afterwards? So what does that look like in terms of continuing to be critically reflective of your classroom and your own teaching? What does that look like? And that's where this scholarship of teaching and learning component kind of came in. So scholarship of teaching and learning is a discipline really for looking at and examining student learning in the higher education classroom and what that looks like more concretely, and putting it under a scholarly lens. As one of the tendencies that we have as instructors is to share information anecdotally, and this is a way in the same vein of educational research that happens primarily at the high school K through 12 level, taking some of that focus and putting it on higher education, but not necessarily by people who exclusively do that research, but rather people on the ground. So professors, teachers, graduate students who are in the classroom and seeing this firsthand, they're the ones who are doing this research. And so part of this program is opening that door to graduate students to think about their own students' learning and their own teaching in that way, and inviting them to step into those conversations, either more generally or more discipline specifically. And so the program as it stands right now is that we have a SOTL seminar, and then out of that seminar, students get the tools and the ideas to create their own SOTL projects in their classrooms, whether they're instructors of record of their classrooms or they're TAs for professors, or they have a different set of teaching opportunities. There are a variety of different ways to conduct SOTL projects in that respect. Let me ask you a question.
You've gotten then to work with Nancy really closely on this. Would you say that you've worked with anyone else at the Center for Teaching?
Well, let's see. I have worked with our director, Derek Bruff, on the creation of this blog series called Thinking STEM, Teaching STEM, that was born out of a MOOC course created by the SERTL Network. The SERTL Network is the Center for Integrated Teaching.
Oh, no, you got the R. You got to do the R.
Oh, yeah. Integrated Research, Teaching, and Learning.
Nice.
Okay.
Nice. SERTL.
And it's really, it's a group that's really focused on STEM education and helping instructors in STEM education. And so this MOOC was structured around undergraduate STEM education and helping new instructors or future instructors to step into that world. And so there was this MOOC was done in tandem with Vanderbilt University as well as several other universities, but our director, Derek Bruff, was a big part of that MOOC, and they generated some fantastic video content. And so we wanted to highlight that video content through this blog series. And we've organized it thematically so that people who come to the Center for Teaching's website, happen upon the blog, can search through the different themes and be able to view that video content that applies most directly to whatever it is that they're looking at.
I see. So your work with him is involved in, so exactly what does that look like for you, I guess, is my question.
Okay.
So are you putting things on the website? You're doing web design?
So the way that works is that I am creating a weekly blog post in which I post the video content that's going to be in the blog on our YouTube channel. And then I embed those videos into a blog post, and I post that directly. And that happens every week, every Thursday. So it's coming today.
Today.
And And I should say that this project actually falls under a larger umbrella in terms of the work that I've been doing with Derek, and it's social media in general, social media management. So I am in charge of managing the Center for Teaching's various social media platforms, and picking what content gets posted where, whether it's articles that come out or
And that's Instagram,
yeah.
Twitter.
So we've got it practically all. So
Facebook.
Yeah, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube.
Do we Pinterest?
No, we don't Pinterest. Mm-mm.
Do we
LinkedIn?
We LinkedIn. We LinkedIn. I'm not
Yeah.
LinkedIn connections. I need to connect with.
You do need to connect.
You know, I've had the opportunity to work not only with some of the assistant directors, but with the other GTFs pretty closely this year. One of the most fun parts of my job is the graduate student learning community this year, which is centered around our theme of teaching power and difference. We've been meeting once a month with an open group of graduate students who read a couple readings before our meetings, and we get together for about an hour and a half on the first Monday of every month here at the CFT to talk about whatever sort of issue, sort of sub-issue in teaching power and difference we've decided to talk about. This past week, actually, we met and we talked about teaching race abroad and international experiences of race. It was so fascinating to hear from some of the interesting graduate students who've had opportunities to teach in places that just have an entirely different formula for understanding physical difference between people. Just fascinating. So I've had that opportunity, and I do that actually with one of our other GTFs who's here in the office with us, Brielle Harbin from Political Science, who is secretly photobombing us. So I have to say that actually the opportunity to work with other GTFs has been very, very fun for me. People across the university that I like because they like teaching, but that I didn't get to meet before. So it's like I've just gotten 4 new friends. What? It's
true. You end up spending a lot of time.
Yeah, so how many hours are we in the office?
So we are in the office 18 hours a week, and then we have 2 flex hours, which essentially allows us to take that time to respond to emails, do any additional work that for whatever time reasons needs to be done.
Google.
Yeah, right? And so really you're talking about a 20-hour-a-week time commitment as a GTF. And those 20 hours a week
are 20 hours of real work.
Yeah, I mean, it is jam-packed in the best way possible. So you've heard kind of some of the things that Ben does in his 20 hours. You've heard some of the things that I do in my 20 hours. One of the other GTFs, Danny Picard, helps manage our in-house magazine, which is called Teaching, Learning, and Inquiry. It is the journal for ISOTL, which is essentially International Scholarship Teaching and Learning. ISOTL, as the Canadians would say, which is co-edited by Gary Poole and then our own assistant director, Nancy Chick. And so Danny, our other GTF, she helps oversee a lot of the management and organization that goes into making that journal a smooth process. And so that's where a lot of her work lies. Another GTF here, Christian Arrett, works with our Bold Fellows program.
Blended Online
Learning Design.
Okay, design. We are not immune to the Scholarship of Teaching and Learning's love of acronyms at the CFT. It's sort of like the military.
Yeah, you will end up using so many acronyms. We say GTF.
When I started here, I have to say, I absolutely sat down and said, I cannot keep CFT and GTF separate in my mind. I want to say GFT, it's CTF.
I said GFT, I don't know how many times.
It's
ended
hard.
Up saying GTF.
Well, you know, we should say is those 20 hours a week we're spending at the CFT are spent in very cool digs, I think. If you take a look around, we have a very neat little office pod.
Office?
We all get to commingle together.
Ta-da. So this is where we all
get to sit and do our work.
And we also bounce a whole lot of ideas off of each other. If we're all working on specific projects, we can just turn around and be like, hey, Ben,
how fun is it?
What do you think about this idea?
How fun is it to teach in a place that has all of the sorts of resources you need to teach? I just taught a lesson that used big Post-it notes. I'm telling you that I would not have been able to find big Post-it notes in just any place in the world. The CFT has this amazing teaching space that's basically like a laboratory. Every single piece of furniture is mobile, even the whiteboards. Every single space can be cleared out if you want to do a fun floor activity. I mean, there are just lots of opportunities for teaching here. I want to know from you before we close out, Vivian, what is your one favorite thing about being a GTF?
Oh man, that's tough. Honestly, I mean, to me, it is the collaborative aspect of being here in community, with like-minded people who really value a lot of the same things, and being able to bounce ideas out of each other. So I feel like that collaborative environment is probably the thing I value most, and not just sort of amongst the GTFs, but with our senior staff, assistant directors, director. Cool. I mean, it's like a little family, a little work family.
That would have been, that was a good one. So my favorite thing here absolutely has to be, it's definitely the community, but it's the specific people in it who are both interested in teaching and then have other things going on that are also interesting. So I recently went and had we had a CFT game night, and I played board games with our director and a couple other assistant directors. It was so fun. Right now, in about 3 minutes, we're starting a feminist write-a-thon that just came out of Nancy Chick and my imagination, and the CFT is like very supportive and is like, okay, do it. So it's been great. I encourage all of you to apply to be graduate teaching fellows, teaching affiliates, to join our CICT program, SOTL, BOLD, whatever it is, wider. Please write us, ask us questions.
And don't forget, the deadline is on Monday.
February 16th, 4 p.m. Okay?
All right.
Signing off.
Bye, guys.